area in late 2000. He has been serving in various capacities in temples in New York and New Jersey since then. Currently, he serves as the president of the board of trustees at the Bhakti Center. Yashoda Dulal Prabhu works as head of finance and risk management in an insurance company in New York. By training, he is a chartered accountant from India and an MBA from Columbia Business School in New York City. He is married to Shri Radhika Devi Dasi and they live in New Jersey. So thank you again, Yashoda Dulal Prabhu. As I was preparing the announcement for the broadcast email, I was reminiscing the time, when the Albany students in 2003, 2004, we used to come to New York City for the Harinam program in February with His Holiness Indradumna Swami, and ceremoniously we would crash into his apartment at Jersey City.
That was so much fun when
All
you
the
were all,
students, yeah.
yeah.
We would go for Harinam with Indradumna Maharaj. It would be late night, like 1:30 a.m., 2 a.m. after the Harinam was over. And after taking the subway, we would just go to his apartment and crash there till next morning.
That was a lot of fun. It's always wonderful to be with the Vaishnavas.
So again, thank you very much for joining us this evening, Yashoda Dulal Prabhu. And without further delay, I'll let you and Shri Radhika Mataji take us through this class. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So you can see my screen?
Yes, Prabhu. Perfect.
Okay, wonderful. So let's start with the invocation, the standard prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And since the topic is on Lord Chaitanya, we will start with another invocation. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Shri Chaitanya and Shri Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra and glory to all the devotees of Shri Gaurahari, Lord Chaitanya. So I'm going to, I selected this verse from Adi Leela, chapter 2, verse number 2. And first, I will just call out the individual words and then we will sing it just once, no repetitions and so on. We'll sing it in the Shad Goswami Ashtakam meter. It's a really beautiful verse and very melodious. And this kind of singing and the tune will help us to remember it. So I'll first call out the individual words. Krishna, Utkirtana, Gana, Nartana, Kala, Pathojani, Brajita, Sadbhakta, Avali, Hamsa Chakra, Madhupa, Shreni, Vihara, Aspadam, Karnanandi, Kaladhvanir, Vahatume, Jivvamaru, Prangane, Shri Chaitanya, Daya, Nidhe, Tavalasat, Leela, Sudha, Swardhuni. So we'll chant now very briefly. Krishnotkertana Gana Nartana Kala Pathojani Bhrajita Sadbhaktavali Hamsa Chakra Madhupa Shreni Viharaspadaṁ Karnanandi Kaladhvani Vahatu Me Jivamaru Prangane Shri Chaitanya Daya Nidhe Tavalasad Leela Sudha Swardhuni. So you can remember this meter while you're at home if you come across this verse again or you want to memorize it, because the translation and the purport are beautiful. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. O my merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the nectarian Ganges waters of your transcendental activities flow on the surface of my desert like tongue. Beautifying these waters are the lotus flowers of singing, dancing, and loud chanting of Krishna's holy name, which are the pleasure abodes of unalloyed devotees. These devotees are compared to swans, ducks, and bees. The river's flowing produces a melodious sound that gladdens their ears. Purport. Actually, yeah. Our Let me just move this box because yeah. Our tongues always engage in vibrating, useless sounds that do not help us realize transcendental peace. The tongue is compared to a desert because a desert needs a constant supply of refreshing water to make it fertile and fruitful. Water is the substance most needed in the desert. The transient or fleeting pleasure derived from mundane topics of art, culture, politics, sociology, dry philosophy, poetry, and so on is compared to a mere drop of water because although such topics have a qualitative feature of transcendental pleasure, they are saturated with the modes of material nature, like the mode of passion or ignorance, or even the mode of goodness, the material mode of goodness. Therefore, neither collectively nor individually can they satisfy the vast requirements of the desert like tongue. Despite crying in various conferences, therefore, the desert like tongue continues to be parched. Those of us who work in corporate life or academia can particularly relate to this. Despite crying in various conferences, we hear all kinds of stuff in all these meetings and conferences, but the tongue continues to be parched because it's not satisfied by these topics that relate to the world of matter. For this reason, people from all parts of the world must call for the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who are compared to swans swimming around the beautiful lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or bees humming around his lotus feet in transcendental pleasure, searching for honey. The dryness of material happiness cannot be moistened by so called philosophers who cry for Brahman, which is impersonal liberation or merging into the absolute. Liberation and similar dry speculative objects. The urge of the soul proper is different. The soul can be solaced only by the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his many bona fide devotees who never leave the lotus feet of the Lord to become imitation Mahaprabhus, but all cling to his lotus feet like bees that never leave a honey soaked lotus flower. So it's interesting, Prabhupada says here the urge of the soul proper is different. And what is that urge? It's not self aggrandizement, it's not glorification, it's not speaking about all kinds of topics. It's actually vibrating the holy names and the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. We are designed in a way that the soul can only find nourishment when we talk about and hear these topics, and especially in the association of his bona fide devotees. And Srila Prabhupada also says these devotees never leave the lotus feet of the Lord to become imitation Mahaprabhus. So, unlike impersonal philosophers or impersonalists, devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are interested in eternally serving the Lord with love, not becoming imitation Mahaprabhus, which, from a didactic or a definitional perspective, it's impossible anyway, but some people try. Lord Chaitanya's movement of Krishna consciousness is full of singing and dancing, or dancing and singing about the pastimes of Lord Krishna. It is compared herein to the pure waters of the Ganges, which are full of lotus flowers. The enjoyers of these lotus flowers are the pure devotees, who are like bees and swans. They chant like the flowing of the Ganges, the river of the celestial kingdom. The author, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, desires such sweetly flowing waves to cover his tongue. He humbly compares himself To materialistic persons who always engage in dry talk from which they derive no satisfaction. If they were to use their dry tongues to chant the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, as exemplified by Lord Chaitanya, they would taste sweet nectar and enjoy life. The verse again is, O my merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the nectarian Ganges waters of your transcendental activities flow on the surface of my desert-like tongue. Beautifying these waters are the lotus flowers of singing, dancing, and loud chanting of Krishna's holy name, which are the pleasure abodes of unalloyed devotees. These devotees are compared to swans, ducks, and bees. The river's flowing produces a melodious sound that gladdens their ears. So I cannot see all the participants here, but I'm trying to put gallery view to see. I recognize some names, and I know that this is a community which is nourished by spiritual giants like Pyari Mohan Prabhu and Jiva Mataji and His Holiness Niranjan Swami. So there's wonderful um, nourishment in the shape of constant Harikatha and Seva and Kirtan flowing in this community. So all of you, you are worshipable devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and I beg at your lotus feet to bless me so that I can speak some words that will be pleasing to the Supreme Lord and inspiring to all of us on our own journey of going back to Godhead. I'm very honored and humbled to be asked to speak here. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Nivadi Paschati Deshnani Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyanjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So next Sunday, the 28th of March, is the most glorious day of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in this world. And that's why I chose this verse. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4.7, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam shrujamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat or Arjun, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Krishna goes on to say in the next verse, 4.8 of Bhagavad Gita, to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. The ancient Indian sacred text, Srimad Bhagavatam, is the scripture that Srila Vyasadeva wrote after writing hundreds of thousands of verses in the form of the Vedas, then the Puranas, and the Vedanta Sutra, which is the commentary on the Vedas. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the commentary on the commentary of the Vedas. So it's the essence of all spiritual knowledge. Srimad Bhagavatam describes how the Supreme Lord incarnates in innumerable forms at different times and in different universes. It also declares emphatically that Lord Sri Krishna is the source of all these forms and incarnations. We are familiar with that famous verse in the first canto, third chapter, 28th verse, Eti chamsha kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That all these incarnations and portions of the incarnations or plenary portions are but parts of the one supreme, the source, that is Krishna. He's Bhagavan Swayam. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a description of how the Supreme Lord Krishna appears in 3 of the 4 ages as God himself. But in Kali Yuga, the age that we are in right now, He appears in a hidden form and as his own devotee rather than as God himself. Now, each age, it's described in Srimad Bhagavatam, has its own prescribed practice for human beings to develop the perfection of life, that is, to realize who we are. Those practices are appropriate for the conditions and the mental fitness, the proclivities of the inhabitants of each of those ages. For example, in Satya Yuga, which is the first of the four ages, uh, the living beings, human beings, they live for 100,000 years and they have tremendous mental and physical capabilities. And so the prescribed practice for that age is tens of thousands of years of perfect, unbroken meditation on the Supreme Lord. Now, we are in Kali Yuga, and the present age of Kali, there are five things that are very prominent. The first thing is short lifespans for human beings. Most human beings live up to 80 years of age. And if you look around, perhaps the last 20 to 25 years are spent with some kind of physical ailment, disease, disability, weakness. So, really, our lifespan, if you take out those 20 years at the end, and maybe the first 20 years when we are just, little kids or babies and learning what it is in life, there's about 40 years in between. So the lifespan is really small that we have in this age of Kali. The second feature of Kali Yuga is that people have weak memory and health. In fact, a prominent feature of this age, it's not given in Srimad Bhagavatam, but when I was making notes to myself yesterday from my class, I realized that this is an age of smartphones. You can see my phone, smartphones and dumb minds. The third feature of Kali Yuga is that it's an age of quarrel and hypocrisy. I don't think anyone will dispute this point. You just have to look around, even unfortunately in the devotee community, to see that sometimes we give way to quarrels and hypocrisy, even in the midst of devotee communities. What to speak of the lay world, where it is not just prominent, it's perhaps the prominent feature of Kali Yuga. The fourth feature of Kali Yuga is a reluctance on the part of human beings to do anything spiritual. So, this is the age when nonsense like do what feels right to you, what makes you feel good, be a good person, whatever that means, because everyone's definition of good person is different. People have this mistaken belief that we have one life and we should enjoy with our senses and our mind as much as we can. And so this age is full of a reluctance to do anything that is actually genuinely spiritual, following in the footsteps of genuine authorities. And the fifth feature of Kali Yuga is a tendency to cheat. Srila Prabhupada called society in this age a society of cheaters and cheated. In this age, we see many so-called spiritual people of whatever religion and tradition make rubbish claims of either being God or being connected to God. There is the whole concept of prosperity theology, where if God loves you, then you will be prosperous. Or if you're prosperous, that means God loves you. And if you're poor, then perhaps God hates you, but send us $10,000 and we'll see what we can do, to make God love you. So all these kind of nonsense practices are commonplace in this age. The Supreme Lord, therefore, incarnates in this age of Kali, in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, as a Channa or hidden incarnation. Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures actually describe how to recognize this incarnation, what his characteristics are, where he will appear, and even who his parents will be. That hidden avatar, who is prophesied in various scriptures that were written thousands and thousands of years ago, is Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He appeared 535 years ago, next Sunday, 535 years ago, in the year 1486. He appeared in the town of Navadvip, some 75 miles or about 120 kilometers north of Kolkata in West Bengal. There are many biographies of Lord Chaitanya written by those who were his contemporaries or near contemporaries. They are based on voluminous notes and eyewitness accounts of many who lived with him and saw his wondrous activities up close. The verse that we read earlier is from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, considered the most authoritative of these biographies of Lord Chaitanya. In it, the author Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami quotes from different scriptural sources to prove that Lord Chaitanya is the same Krishna who is prophesied to appear in Kali Yuga as his own devotee. So I would like to talk next briefly about why Sri Chaitanya appeared and what was his purpose in appearing. Kaviraj Goswami quotes 6 reasons in all. 3 of them are external and 3 are internal for why Krishna appears as Lord Chaitanya in this age. So I would like to go inside out and talk of his internal reasons for appearing first. Internal reason number 1: Krishna desires to understand the glory and the greatness of Sri Radha's love for him. There are unlimited living entities in the spiritual world, and specifically in Goloka, which is the topmost planet in the spiritual world. All these unlimited living entities love Krishna purely. If you don't love Krishna purely, then you cannot be in the spiritual world. So, by definition, all these living entities are very pure. But of these countless living entities, there is one whose love for Krishna is unparalleled. That devotee is Srimati Radharani. Kaviraj Goswami explains in the 4th chapter of Adi Leela how Radharani's love drives Krishna mad. Its strength is unknown to him. He's God, but he doesn't know how strong, he cannot gauge the extent of how strong Radharani's love is for him. It gives 10 million times more pleasure to Sri Radha than it does to him. One of the analogies I've heard in this connection is the analogy of the mother and the baby. So, those of you who are attending today, if you are mothers, or if you're fathers for that matter, you will remember when your baby or babies were small, you had to wait on them hand and foot, constantly feed them, clean their poop and their pee, change their clothes, make sure they're not cold, they're not hot, make sure they're sleeping properly, watch them 24 hours a day to protect them. So, in one sense, someone from a distance might look at it and say, wow, the baby's really got it made. He or she is lying on his back, crying when he wants something, and the mother or father rush to deliver what the baby is looking for. And the baby must be in so much ecstasy. And sure, a well loved baby is definitely happy. But who is happier? It's actually the parents of the baby who are happier. And why? Because they are offering pure service, pure love to that baby. They're not thinking, oh, this baby one day will grow up and might become a multimillionaire and might send over, $5 million check to his old man or old woman. And therefore, let me take care of him or her right now. No, they're not thinking like that. There is no material thought or cause behind why they're loving this baby purely. And so this is in this world, in the spiritual world, the devotees, and especially Srimati Radharani, they are serving Krishna with so much purity that their pleasure is actually way, way more. Kaviraj Goswami describes that her pleasure is 10 million times more than the pleasure that Krishna gets from her love and her service. So Krishna, he experiences this and he says, I got to figure it out. I've heard different speakers say that, God, even though he knows everything, there is one thing he cannot know, and that is the ecstasy of the love of Sri Radha for himself. And to do that, he needs to come with her mood and her attitude and her mentality to experience that. So Kaviraj Goswami goes on to describe in the fourth chapter of Adi Leela, Radharani's love is full of contradictions, like Krishna himself, who is the abode of all contradictions. For example, Krishna is the proprietor of everything, and yet we find in Vrajalila he steals. Why does he steal? He owns everything, but he steals because it gives pleasure to his devotees. He's actually stealing their hearts when he's stealing butter. Also, we hear about how he kills demon after demon who come to attack him and the coward boys and the gopis of Vraj. So, in one sense, you might say, wow, he's killing that living entity. But actually, he's liberating that living entity by killing it. So, Krishna is full of contradictions. And similarly, Radharani's love is full of contradictions. And Kaviraj Goswami describes some of those contradictions. Radha's love is expanded everywhere. It's vast, it's fathomless, it's limitless. Yet, it is still continuously expanding since time immemorial and for all time to come. Nothing is greater than Radha's love, yet it is devoid of pride. Normally, the moment we have something great in our possession, if we are very educated or we have a high position or lots of money or good looks, immediately the tendency is we are proud. But Radha is the greatest devotee, but there is no trace of pride in her. Nothing is purer than her love, Kaviraj Goswami says, yet it is perverse, it is crooked, and it's duplicitous, all to increase the pleasure of Sri Krishna. Kaviraj Goswami describes that Radha is the highest abode of love, Ashraya, and Krishna is its only object. So, to taste that love that she feels for him, he appears in her mood in the form of Sri Chaitanya. Internal reason number 2. Krishna wants to understand and taste his own sweetness, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love. Krishna's sweetness is wonderful, infinite, and full. Only Sri Radhika, whose love is pure like a mirror, can taste that sweetness. In fact, Kaviraj Goswami describes competition takes place between Krishna's sweetness and the mirror of Radha's love. They are reflecting in each other and they are both constantly increasing because Krishna's sweetness wants to defeat Radha's love and Radha's love grows to defeat Krishna's sweetness, and it just goes on like that. They both increase limitlessly without defeat. The third reason why Krishna comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that he wants to taste and relish the happiness that she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love. So these are the 3 internal reasons that are explained in Adi Leela 1.6, and they're expanded upon in chapter 4 of Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita. The 3 external reasons for Lord Chaitanya's appearance are described in Adi Leela chapter 3. The first reason is that he appeared to fulfill the fervent appeals made by Lord Advaitacharya for Sri Krishna himself to descend and preach bhakti by his personal example. Advaitacharya's appearance day was a few weeks ago, and we heard while on that day and leading up to that day how he is an incarnation, a combined incarnation of Mahavishnu himself and Sadashiva, the original form of Lord Shiva. And yet, he is in the age of Kali, he is looking across the desert or the forest, either analogy is fine, of the material world in Kali Yuga, and he's weeping for the inhabitants of this world. He's thinking how unfortunate all of these people are. They actually, their self interest is to grab Krishna Bhakti, perfect their life, and go back to the spiritual world, never come back to this world of death, birth, old age, and disease. And yet, these people are just engaged in mundane matters, their careers, their families, their countries, their skin type, their nationalities, all rubbish which just goes away over time. Sure, doesn't mean we don't take care of our families, we don't do what is required for our bodies. That's not the point. The point is being exclusively dedicated to these temporary things is what made Lord Advaitacharya weep. And so he called for Sri Krishna with loud cries and loud worship. He called for Krishna to descend and preach bhakti by his personal example. So that was the first external reason. The second external reason was to inaugurate the Yuga Dharma, or the spiritual practices for this age. And that practice is Harinam Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy names of Krishna. And the third external reason is to bestow Prema Bhakti, or Vraja Prem, devotional service in the most elevated mood of the devotees of Vraj, and specifically the conjugal mellow of the gopis. So Krishna descended as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically to bestow this kind of prema bhakti, not bhakti in the mood of awe and reverence, not even bhakti in some of the pure mellows, but considered lower mellows of shantaras, neutrality, or dasya, but the highest mellow, which is the conjugal mellow of the gopis. And he does that through the chanting of Harinam Sankirtan. So Kaviraj Goswami sums up these 6 reasons, 3 external and 3 internal, in Adi Leela chapter 4, verses 15 and 16. He says, the Lord wanted to taste the sweet essence of the mellows of love of God, and he wanted to propagate devotional service in the world on the platform of spontaneous attraction. Thus, he is known as supremely jubilant and as the most merciful of all. See, at this point, it's worth reflecting on the different incarnations of Krishna. Lord Narasimhadev appeared to specifically protect Prahlad Maharaj, his little devotee, and for all time to come, he will be worshipped for protection and out of love, remembering that pastime. Ramachandra appeared, he protected and liberated, the living entities in Ayodhya, and in a different way, he liberated the demons who were fighting under Ravana's jurisdiction. Krishna appeared, he liberated so many demons by killing them, and he took back his own devotees from Dwarka and, of course, Brajadham back to the spiritual world. They had come with him and he took them back with him. But if you look at all these, you had to follow a certain set of rules, which was Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharma Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Right? He says you have to surrender and then he protects you. But Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he comes to this degraded age. He doesn't even ask people to surrender. In fact, he instructs his associates, his most confidential associates, the other 4 members of the Panchatattva, Lord Nityananda, Sri Gadadhar, Advaita, and Srivas Pandit, and all the other associates and devotees that he comes with. He instructs them, go look for people, knock on everyone's door, stop people on the street, and instruct them to chant the names of Krishna, hear about Krishna, and make them remember their eternal relationship of service and love with Krishna. So there is no qualification involved. And Mahaprabhu's associates, in the form 500 years later of Srila Prabhupada, his most prominent commander in this age, Srila Prabhupada and his band of supremely dedicated followers, they went all over the world, and they're still going all over the world, literally town to town, village to village, chanting the holy names distributing sacred texts, and sharing about Krishna Bhakti with people. That has never been done by any other incarnation. And that is the reason why Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, one of Mahaprabhu's senior most confidential associates, he wrote the Chaitanya Ashtakam, where 100 verses glorifying Mahaprabhu. And in that, he details all this and he says, who can you find who is more merciful than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Without even any qualification, he gives the highest love to the living entities in Kali Yuga. And if you notice, if you read the life and times of Sri Chaitanya and his associates, you will see that they first of all tasted the sweet mellows of spontaneous devotional service in the mood of the devotees of Vraj, and they became intoxicated by those mellows. And just like an intoxicated king who is completely inebriated, he starts giving wealth away to passers-by without any discrimination. Hey, you, here, come, take this diamond necklace. Here, you, take this gold jug. You, take this, $10,000. These people, these highly magnanimous personalities, starting with the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they gave away this highest of loving devotional service to anyone and everyone. That is why we sing the glories of Sri Chaitanya and we call him the most magnanimous form of Krishna ever to descend. See, in Chaitanya Leela, in the different biographies, we read of the nocturnal kirtans that Lord Chaitanya would have in Srivas Pandit's house. For the first 1 year, those kirtans were by invitation only. They were not open to the public. Similar to how we have like a home program, and it's not like it's always advertised to everyone in the community. We invite certain friends and only those people come and so on. So those kirtans were only for those devotees who were completely dedicated to Sri Chaitanya. But then the dam broke. The Chand Kazi, who was the Muslim ruler of that place, he was harassing the devotees. He had instructed his soldiers to stop any chanting that was going on as they passed any households. If they heard the chanting of Krishna's names coming, to break into the house, beat up the people, smash their drums, throw away their kartals, and beat them up with a threat to kill them if they continued doing it. So when Mahaprabhu heard this, Sri Chaitanya heard this, he led a massive public kirtan. And Chaitanya Bhagavat, another biography by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, describes this kirtan. It's so beautifully described in Chaitanya Bhagavat. How it was, there were limitless living entities, not just the people of Nadia, but even demigods and other planetary systems. All the people had come to take part in this kirtan because it was the first time that Lord Chaitanya had staged this public kirtan, and everyone went chanting to the Chand Kazi, and they got the right eternally to chant in public. After that, this chanting became public. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Nityananda and others to actively go up to people and exhort them to take to the process of chanting the holy name and hearing about Krishna. So it's through this kirtan that Mahaprabhu instills in us the highest bliss. I mean, you can reflect for yourself when you've been in kirtans which were really chanted by devotees who practice very sincerely, who have a taste for the holy name, and you're with other devotees, like-minded people who are also trying to advance on the same path. How that kirtan feels when you walk out, you're not in this body. You're, physically in this body, but you actually realize that I am spirit soul. I am the eternal servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna. And we are filled with bliss. So Sri Chaitanya asked everyone to do 4 things. Chant the holy names. That is on one's own beads, because that's a practice of us in connection, direct connection with Krishna. We're one-on-one with Krishna, and congregationally with other devotees. Read about Krishna, especially Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he describes Harikatha, or hearing Krishna's words or topics of Krishna. He describes Harikatha as the Swarup Shakti of Harinam, which means that hearing about Krishna goes hand in hand with chanting about Krishna. And so the third thing that Sri Chaitanya asked everyone to do to achieve perfect happiness and the perfection of life in this life itself is to serve the Vaishnavas and the Vaishnavis. Anyone who is on this path, to serve them, not criticize them, not blaspheme them, but to serve as sincerely as one can. One of my Shiksha gurus or instructing teachers, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, I've been in many of his initiations and I'm so impressed and happy. Every single initiation, he asks his disciples to not just take the standard vows, but he also asks them never to criticize any devotee, especially not online and not in print. I think that's a wonderful vow to take for all Vaishnavas. And so I'm very inspired by that. And the fourth thing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked everyone to do was to preach about Krishna, share about Krishna, tell people about Krishna. He said, if you do these four things and not offend any devotees, I will take you back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada was once asked, Lord Chaitanya is God himself. If he wanted, he could have made the whole world Krishna conscious by himself. Why did he not do it? Srila Prabhupada answered simply, so that we would have something to do. And that is sharing about Krishna. Mahaprabhu's life and pastimes are the most extraordinary and sweet. Our Srila Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, said that devotees should hear Gaura Leela or pastimes and teachings of Mahaprabhu regularly. Our Srila Prabhupada wanted all his followers to be able to access Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and dive into its nectarian waters. And so he had his devotees print the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita in 2 months flat. In fact, just last week, Vaisheshika Prabhu interviewed Rameshwar Prabhu and Dhriti Mataji and others on the GBC Strategic Planning Team, GBC SPT channel on Facebook. You can hear that. It's from about 6 or 7 days ago, where they recounted how the Chaitanya Charitamrita marathon was done in 2 months. It's hair-raising. I tell you, it's so riveting. I heard it and I was mesmerized and inspired. I heard Satyaraj Prabhu, the noted author Stephen Rosen, tell me once, years ago, he said, Srimad Bhagavatam explains what is Krishna Bhakti. Chaitanya Charitamrita demonstrates how to practice Krishna Bhakti. You see, Lord Chaitanya's dealings with his devotees and with the people at large delight the heart. All the elements of a most satisfying plot are in there. You'll see magnanimity or mercy. There are innumerable examples of how he gives the highest gift of love of God to even undeserving people, and even to dogs, lions, tigers, deer, and other animals. There is humor. So you can read about it, the bantering of Nityananda and Advaita, or Haridas Thakur, who is mock chastising Nityananda as they're running away from Jaga and Madhai the first time. There is pathos, the feelings of anguish in the Lord's devotees when Lord Chaitanya takes sannyas and renounces his household life to go live in Puri. There is drama. There is Mahaprabhu's Mahaprakash Leela, where he openly, to a select group of thousands of his devotees, he displayed his opulences as God. Or when he would enter the mood of Varahadev or Lord Shiva or Nrsimhadev, there is action, the pastime of Jaga and Madhai. There is wonder, descriptions of the Lord and his mood during Rath Yatra and during Kirtans. There is relish, so many descriptions of prasadam pastimes. There is suspense in Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Antya Leela. There is a story of how Gopinath Pattanayaka is nearly killed by the king's soldiers before Mahaprabhu's mercy saves him. And above all, there is sweetness. Mahaprabhu's dealings in all different mellows or moods with all his devotees, different moods, Gadadhar Pandit, Advaita Acharya, Mother Shachi, Jagdananda Pandit, the Goswamis, so many others. And that is why Kaviraj Goswami prays in this verse that we read today from Adi Leela 2.2, O my merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the nectarian Ganges waters of your transcendental activities flow on the surface of my desert-like tongue. By hearing and chanting these pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, we will always be spiritually enlivened and we will lose our taste for this world of matter. We can continue to live in this world, but we can elevate ourselves and prepare ourselves to go back to the spiritual world where we belong. So it's just a little over 4:45 and I was told to stop at 4:45. So now I'll hand over to the organizers to see if there are any questions or comments, corrections.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Very nice lecture, Prabhuji. I have 3 questions. My first question is, you said that in Bhagavatam Canto 11, it is said that Lord Krishna appears in the 3 of the 4 ages or yugas as Lord himself, but in Kali Yuga, he appears as a devotee. But why not appear? But why does he not appear as a god? Also, Prabhuji.
If you don't mind, can I answer that question?
Yes, Prabhuji.
I'll lose track of your questions otherwise.
Yes, Prabhuji, you can answer.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, this age of Kali is an age of hypocrisy and quarrel. And if Krishna were to appear and call himself God, there are already so many bogus people who are calling themselves God. So he's hidden so that those who actually read the authorized scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and the Puranas, even the Upanishads, they will know who is Lord Chaitanya and he's actually God. But the imposters will not be able to copy or imitate his activities, and because they never read any of this stuff. They're involved in their bogus reading or their bogus gossip. So they just claim to be God. So that's the reason why he doesn't appear as God.
Thank you, Prabhuji. But he appeared as God in Kali Yuga, no, Prabhuji? Like Venkateshwar Swami, he did various leelas like marrying Padmavati Devi by taking loan from Kuvera Swami, etc. How about that?
Well, it's different tradition. And, Krishna's, if you read Bhagavatam, it describes that the incarnations of the Lord are like the waves of the ocean. Who can count them?
Okay, Prabhuji. This is my last question.
Mm-hmm.
So we are all kids of Radha and Krishna, right? So how can we experience or relish the love that they feel for us?
By entering into the mood of service. My wife and I, as part of our daily joint reading, we're currently reading Chaitanya Charitamrita and or rereading it. And in fact, a month or 2 ago, we read this most nectarian book, which I'm sure in Hartford is probably available. It's Lectures on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by His Holiness Niranjan Swami. Can you all see the book? Yeah.
Yes.
So we read that first. So we prepared our hearts and our minds for reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. And what is described, Prabhupada repeatedly stresses that we are not yet on the spontaneous level of being the equal of Krishna or considering ourselves the superior of Krishna like Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj do, or the cowherd male friends of Krishna do, or how the gopis chastise. So we are given this Vaidhi Bhakti or this regulated practice. But the fruit of this regulated practice, which includes hearing about Krishna and about Gauranga Mahaprabhu regularly from devotees who are authorized and who are following the footsteps of authorized devotees, that will lead us one day to spontaneous loving attraction. Because you see, when I was little, for example, I would pray. My mother gave me very good samskaras. I would pray, I had morning and evening prayers. And a lot of them I realize now they were from Bhagavatam. But there wasn't a lot of explanation. There was no hearing going on. And frankly, it was done more as a ritual than, as anything else. But when we water our practice by regular hearing and we put it into practice by chanting Krishna's holy names, and specifically by serving great souls who have a taste for Krishna Bhakti, that's when love starts to arise, because you cannot love someone you don't know. So part of our regulated practice that Srila Prabhupada has given us is getting to know Krishna and Radharani. And we do that through the processes that you all follow and we all follow in Srila Prabhupada's temples everywhere.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Anyone else? I hope I didn't put devotees to sleep.
Hare Krishna Yashoda Dulal Prabhu. This is Amrit Keli Dasi. Prabhuji, no question, just a comment. It was a really nice class. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I want to share with my congregation. Go ahead. I want to share with my congregation. You were mentioning that Mahaprabhu and his associates, they did not look for qualifications and being educated, being accomplished, or having a lot of money was not the criteria. It was easily available to everybody. So this is something I want to share with my congregation. Not many might know that Yashoda Dulal Prabhu is a very accomplished person in the material world. Very good education, went to Columbia.
I need to mute you.
President of the Oded Bhakti Center, but still he is very humble. Very humble. We have very easy access to him and his wife Sri Radhika. So we are very grateful. And just one quick point that I want to make. I heard this from Yugal Kishore Prabhu's class few days ago, that when there is a flood, the low-lying areas are the ones to get water first. They are the ones flooded first before the higher, the higher floors. So Mahaprabhu's mercy and Nityanand Prabhu's mercy and Panchatattva's mercy is like flood water. The lower we feel, the more mercy we get. And of course, the lower we feel is, the feeling of humility. It's not low self-esteem, but, considering ourselves genuinely not qualified is what makes us get that mercy.
Thank you.
You encapsulated it very well in your class. Very, very nice. Thank you so much, Yashoda Dulal.
Thank you for sharing. Yugal Kishore is one of my worshipable seniors. And that's a great point. I'll remember that for a future class to quote somewhere else. One thing that I've heard repeatedly and also I've realized in my own devotional journey, that anytime we do something in Krishna Bhakti, whether it's we ourselves, we might look back at 10 years, 15 years, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, and say, oh, I've come a long way. And there might be a subtle trace of pride that comes in. But the way to get rid of that pride is to always be with devotees and do some seva, because seva is the friction that rubs off the edges of the false ego. And see, because it's impossible. For example, if you're trying to do something together, right, with devotees, if you always are the one who has to be the boss and everyone has to listen to your orders, pretty soon no one will want to serve with you, right? And so you have to put your ego down and become humble. And that is great practice. And those of you who have partners, you will know that a spouse is also a great way of becoming humble. Making sure that our spouse keeps us humble, because they see us in our private moments, and if they are our well-wishers, genuine well-wishers, like my wife is a wonderful devotee and she's a great well-wisher of mine, she'll point out, she'll say, no, this you need to correct, and she'll do it in a very loving way. So, but it keeps the ego centered. Similarly, we must have friends in Krishna consciousness who will. True friendship is not just actually that's not true friendship, reinforcing a false ego. True friendship is someone who comes up to us and says, hey, that thing you did yesterday, I don't think that was proper, and here's why. And then if we listen to that feedback or that advice, we will actually grow from it.
Yeah. Very nice. Thank you.
Hare
Thank you for acknowledging Shri Radhika Mataji's efforts.
Actually, she's the devotee and she keeps me, rooted to my practice of Krishna Bhakti in our family.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
That
Krishna.
first verse that you chanted was so beautiful with the translation. Which part of CC is that? Can you post that
You
in the
mean the
chat?
one we sang?
Yeah, sang, yeah.
It's Adi Leela chapter 2, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela chapter 2, verse 2.
Verse 2, okay.
Yeah, and sing it in Shad Goswami Ashtakam meter.
Right, meter. It sounded
Yeah.
so beautiful and so poetic. Also, the translation was very wonderful.
I thank you for bringing, I wanted to bring out one other point. I forgot. Chaitanya Charitamrita is so poetic. Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati actually said that people from all over the world will learn Bengali in order to read Chaitanya Charitamrita in the original. Now, I haven't learned Bengali, but I love the English transliteration that Srila Prabhupada has kindly given us. And I recite the Bengali verses. There is so much poetry and so much, and I'm not Bengali myself by origin. So there's so much poetry in there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I can believe that. Yeah, it sounds so beautiful. And I was laughing at your comment when you said we can love our children, unconditionally, and that's the closest thing to, love of God.
Mhm.
And you said, like, but you can't expect $5 million from them. We'd be lucky if we expect them to come to lunch once in a while when they grow up.
Yes, and parents do it with unconditional. I remember my
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's nothing in it for us.
Actually, so much so, my mother, when she was dying, she was in hospital. She had a ventilator in her lungs and everything. Not COVID. This was many years ago. She was in great pain, and when I arrived from the United States, she was in India in Pune, and I went to see her. She got so excited and animated, and she asked for a little board, like a blackboard with a chalk, and she wrote down the word aloo parathas or potato parathas. And I looked at it, and Radhika was with me, and I said, "You want?" And she wrote the word Shilu, her sister's name. "You want Shilu to make aloo parathas for me?" And she nodded. She was in so much pain, but her only concern was, "I love aloo parathas, so can my son get aloo parathas?" This is mother's love, isn't it? This is parents' love.
Definitely, yeah.
No one else loves you like that. So yeah, that's the love of the Braj. Beyond that is the love of the Brajabasis, and that's the love that Sri Chaitanya came to give us. It's incredible. Like when you think of that, and in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a description of how rare this incarnation is. There is a great description of the time scales, and these time scales are pretty, they're pretty wild. Each day of Brahma has 1,000 Divya Yugas, or 1,000 cycles of the four ages: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar, and Kali. And each day of Brahma thus consists of 4.32 billion years by earthly calculation. And so the Bhagavatam tells us there are 14 Manus appointed to rule the universes in each day of Brahma. This is in the 8th canto. Each Manu's reign lasts for about 71.4 Divya Yugas, which is approximately 307 million years. And in the current day of Brahma, we are in the midst of the reign of the 7th Manu, who is the son of the sun god Vivaswan. And now, in this turn, is when Lord Chaitanya appears, or Krishna appears as Lord Chaitanya. First, Krishna appears at the close of the Dwapar Yuga of the 28th Divya Yuga of this 7th Manu. And then Lord Chaitanya appears in the Kali Yuga following that same appearance by Krishna. Because in each age, at each age of Kali, Krishna does not appear as Mahaprabhu. The Yuga avatar comes, but not Krishna himself appearing as Lord Chaitanya. They appear once in each day of Brahma, that is once in 4.32 billion years. So the rarity of this incarnation, and we are just like, we're within touching distance of that incarnation. That's amazing. So this is not something any of us should take lightly. We should dedicate our lives to actually hearing and knowing about Mahaprabhu and serving in his movement, and make this our last life. It sounds like a tall order, but if we do it sincerely and we have the blessings of devotees, who knows, we'll go back.
Yeah, we have the good fortune of even access to the paraphernalia and pastimes, which
Yeah.
are actually relatively close to us, like you said.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for a wonderful class. We hope that your appearance here with us is not as rare as Lord Chaitanya's appearance. Please come again. It's like pure nectar, you know, we're just relishing every moment. Please come again.
Thank you. You're very kind to encourage me, and I would love to come because it's to my benefit to speak Gaur Katha and Hari Katha with all of you. And I'm just preparing the ground for next Sunday when His Holiness Hanumat Preshak Swami, great, great, great soul, is going to speak on your channel, I heard.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Krishna.
Crafted for future, Prabhu.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Crafted.
Hare Krishna, Yashoda, Dulal, Prabhu. This is Shuddha Bhakti.
Hari
Very
Bol.
happy to see you, and hearing from you is really a great, wonderful, auspicious occasion for all of us to get into the mode of our Purnima. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
And I so briefly saw a very great soul, Jiva Mataji, but she stepped away, and now we can see the wonderful deities of Hartford Temple.
Hare
And I'm sure Pyare Mohan Prabhu, who's always in the background, he must be around somewhere. So my obeisances to them both, as well as to all of you. Okay, if no more
Krishna.
comments and questions. Sorry, did someone have a comment? Okay. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki.
Hare
Uh,
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Thank you so much.
सिद्धरामैया की जय जय गो निताई जी की जय जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय श्रीला प्रभुपाद Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prasarine Nirvishesha Sonavadi Pashatra Visakarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vijayo Gora Chande Arati कोटि चंद्र कोटि चंद्र Baldev Subramaniya ki, Bhuvanikai ji ki. Jai Om Vishnu Pak Paramahansa Parabraja Kacharya Satara Sata Shushu Maris Divine Grace Divine Charana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Par Paramahansa Parabraja Kacharya Satara Sata Shushu Maris Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Premsiko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Lord Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi ki jai. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Lord Nrsimha Deva ki jai. Shri Shalagram Shilas ki jai. Shri Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Samavita Bhaktavinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Can we start the Narsimha prayer?
Yes, always immediately.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste. Yato yato yami tato narsimho. Ito narsimho parato narsimho. Yato yato yami tato narsimho. Bahir narsimho.
Rudaye Narsimho.
Bahir narsimho. Rudhaye narsimho.
Narasimhamadim Charanam Prapati.
Narasimhamadim sharanam prapade.
Tavakara Kamalavareenakam Adbhukta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Tava kara kamalavare nakha adbhuta shringam dalita hiranyakashipu tanubringam keshavadrita narahari rupa jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Jaya Narsimhadev, 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 Jaya Narsimhadev.
Jaya Narsimhadev, Jaya Narsimhadev, Jaya Narsimhadev, Jaya Narsimhadev.
Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad.
Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad.
Narsimhadev ki jai. Prahlad Maharaj ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you
Hare
very much,
Krishna.
everybody. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for our Sunday program online this afternoon. So, let me just try to share my screen as we get mentioning the blessings from Mrs. Pyare Mohan Prabhuji. Just Prabhu, could you please allow me to share my screen? Thank you, Prabhuji. So we had a wonderful class by Mr. Yashoda Dulal Prabhuji today. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for that. And talking of our upcoming celebrations, we have one of our biggest celebrations coming up. We're going to have Gaur Purnima celebration at ISKCON of Connecticut on the 28th of March. Hari Bol! Gaur Purnima, as we know, is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. And on that day, we are going to have at ISKCON of Connecticut a special discourse on Gaur Purnima, and we're going to have a very special speaker. We're going to have amidst us His Holiness Anumat Preksha Swami Maharaj. Hari Bol! Besides that, we're going to have Abhishek, Kirtan, drama, and many more events. So it's going to be an online event. Please do join us on our ISKCON of Connecticut Zoom. The details are displayed on your screen. We will have some volunteers who will be bringing those celebrations live to you from the temple. And it is recommended that we fast until moonrise on Sunday, the 28th of March. If anyone is interested in sponsoring, you can be one of the sponsors for this program as well as for any of our upcoming Sunday program sponsors, for any of our Sunday programs for only $125. And for that, you may contact His Grace Pyare Mohan Prabhuji or Her Grace Jiva Mataji at the temple phone number that is displayed on your screen, which is 8602897252. So we hope to get your online participation on Gaur Purnima. And on the special occasion of Gaur Purnima, we are also having a very special book promotion. So Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita set, the set of 9 books, which is usually available for $125, is now available only for $108. Haribol! So if any of you are interested to avail of this special promotion, you may contact Ganapati Govind Prabhuji, or you may call up the temple phone number that was displayed on the previous screen and order your set. Wednesday, March 24th is Ekadashi. Haribol! So it's a day that we generally recommend fasting from grains, beans, peas, and legumes. And it's a day where we engage in more rounds of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and reading more of Srila Prabhupada's books. The fast break is on the day after, which is Thursday, March 25th. And we're going to have our special Ekadashi Bhajan Kirtan Seva on Wednesday evening between 6 and 7 p.m. So please make every effort to join us in our Ekadashi celebrations. ISKCON of Connecticut has started a special, an official ISKCON of Connecticut WhatsApp group, and this is to keep everyone informed about the various programs and activities at ISKCON of Connecticut. So we have circulated the link on many of the other WhatsApp groups where we usually communicate. The QR code is also displayed on your screen. So I'll stay on the screen for a few seconds. If anyone has not received the link to join, you can just scan your phone on this WhatsApp group link that is displayed on your screen, and you will be able to join. What I'll do is I'll also send this link to join the group that is displayed on your screen on the chat window in a moment. And if anyone who hasn't received the link to join this group, if you are one of them, you can just take this link from the chat window, and you can go over to that link and join our WhatsApp group. So the usual communications that you might receive by word of mouth or by our official emails will now also be available on our ISKCON of Connecticut WhatsApp official group. I'll paste this link on our chat window in a moment from now. We are still going to continue with all of our online programs. Here's a quick snapshot of the program that we're currently running. You can find all of these details along with the participation details, the Zoom link on our ISKCON of Connecticut website. So this is our standard ISKCON of Connecticut Zoom link. You may visit our website for any upcoming updates as well. And with that, we are going to have more chanting for our sponsors. So talking of our sponsors, we had His Grace Pyari Mohan Prabhuji's birthday yesterday. So for that purpose, as well as for temple renovation support, we are having Manishi and family and myself sponsoring for the same purpose. Now we'll have more chanting for our sponsors. Hari Bol. Thank you.
Can we start Kirtan, Prabhu?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, you can go.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Go ahead.
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य तिष्ठारणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री साई गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Naam Sankirtan ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. His Grace Pyare Mohan Prabhu ji ki Jai. ISKCON of Connecticut Temple ki Jai. ISKCON of Connecticut Congregation ki Jai. Thank you very much once again, everyone, for joining us this evening for our Sunday program. And we hope that you will also join us for our upcoming programs. We have our Bhagavad Gita sessions daily, and we also have our Ekadashi Bhajan Kirtan Seva coming up. And don't forget, of course, we have one of our biggest celebrations, Gaur Purnima, coming up next Sunday. Thank you very much once again. Pyari Prabhuji, are we going to have a close-up darshan again before ending?
Oh, yes, we could do that. I didn't even understand what you were saying. I don't know why. I guess because I'm 73 years old now.
Pyare Prabhuji's birthday was yesterday, so you should be one day old today, Prabhuji. But you said you are 10 years old.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
You have a lot of patience. Thank you.
Jai. Shri Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai.
I don't know who is saying. Ah?
Jai Shri Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu Nityananda Prabhu ki Jai. Shri Narsingadev Bhagavan ki Jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maiya ki Jai.
Can you, because I can't tell if it's too high, too low.
You are able to see, Prabhuji.
Okay. Especially for Jagannath, I can't tell. The others, I kind of get a little peek.
Yeah. Shaligram Silas ki Jai.
Not yet. You got to watch the picture.
Now we can say Sri Shaligram Silas ki Jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, can we have darshan of Srila Prabhupada one more time?
Yes, once more.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much, Pyare Mohan Prabhuji.
Thank you
And
for
I hope all the devotees were able to take this question. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you once again, everyone, and hope to see you again in our upcoming programs. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.